Welcome to another episode of Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. I am your host, Megan, and my amazing co-host is...
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hello. We are your source for messy, imperfect homeschool advice and community. Now, please don't confuse messy advice for lousy advice. We have decades of experience, which is weird because we're not that old, but somehow we have decades of experience in homeschooling and education. So you can trust the advice. The advice is good, but we aren't going to share some polished version of homeschooling like an influencer with a ring light and a perfect blowout who's there sharing a montage of her children harvesting berries to make jam, all in matching outfits, naturally.
No, listen, make all the jam you want. I love a fresh batch of strawberry freezer jam after we went to the pick yourself strawberry farm. We just hatched chickens last year in the second bathroom of my downtown condo, which also happens to be my recording studio, because it seemed like an interesting science project. So yeah, grow a garden, make jam, hand sew finger puppets, do whatever fills your cup and keeps your kids engaged and curious. But look, even on my best day with the baby chicks in our bathroom, it was not Pinterest perfect. It was stinky, and there was way more chick poop than I ever expected. And yes, we got a noise violation warning from our HOA because the chicks definitely made their presence known to our neighbors. So, real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, man. That's the truth. Most of us are juggling too many things, not getting to all the stuff that we planned. We are tired. Although I will say, because it's summertime and we've been getting some nice outdoor time, I feel like the dark circles under my eyes are slightly less noticeable than they are in the winter. So I'm calling that a huge win. But yeah, sometimes you plan an amazing day and you're looking forward to it, and it just turns out to be a hot mess where one or more of you on this excellent adventure end up on tears. And, our audience has grown beyond anything that we imagined it would when we started this, but we are not like influencers in that sense, where we don't show you that stuff. The flawless, effervescent 24/7 influencers, yeah, they're not. Right? They'd have you believe it, but they're not. And so they're just not showing you that stuff. And we don't care. So we do, because we're like, come, take it for what it is. This is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Take me as I am. So yeah, we don't care enough to hide it from you, because what's the purpose? What are we serving when we do that?
Right. We record a video podcast and we don't even show up flawless and effervescent. I would say at least 50% of the time my hair is in a messy bun in a claw clip, like today. And at least occasionally that's because I haven't washed it in nearly a week, and it's really time to do that. But also, what is the point in trying to pretend for the internet at large that you're something you aren't? But we do want to say that we love homeschooling. We love doing life with our respective kiddos. We chose this life and we wouldn't change it. Homeschool Moms Unfiltered isn't a bitch fest where we just sit around and complain. We will absolutely tell you about the hard days, but we will also absolutely tell you about the awesome times we have with our kids, the laughter, the family bonds homeschooling helps form, the learning breakthroughs, and so much more. We would just rather share it in a way that feels balanced and real and attainable, so that you don't walk away feeling like you can't possibly measure up to our fake, perfect personas.
Yeah, no, it's a messy bun day here for me too, if you're not watching on video. So that's us. That's what we do. The other thing that makes us unique in the homeschool space is that we are all about secular and progressive content, resources, and community. I had a situation last year where I was at a gathering of homeschoolers, and 90% of the people who were there, I would say, were new. They didn't know anyone. It was mostly families, so there were parenting partners in the mix as well. Anyway, this woman comes up to me and she said, I think I just insulted that guy over there. He started talking to me about climate change being a hoax, and I thought he was being sarcastic. So I went in with a sarcastic quip as well. And then the look on his face told me that he was serious. And next thing I knew, I was looking for an escape hatch from the conversation. And she was a nice person. So I think she felt bad for potentially insulting him, even though she clearly believes climate change is a real thing. And I don't think they were about to find common ground and become besties. But she also was like, I'm going to exit stage left now. I'm done in this conversation.
Right. Well, that's just it. If you're new to homeschooling or if you've recently had to move, sometimes the only way to find your people is to go try out different play groups and nature study clubs or co-ops or whatever. And unfortunately, a lot of times in those instances, you end up in conversations where you're just like, what is even happening here? Like, surely these people don't really think Trump is the best president we've ever had, right? Like, they don't. I mean, do they?
They do. Yeah. Because Newsmax told them that he
Yeah.
is.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So they do. And they do their own research. So anything that you try to present, maybe to the contrary, can't hold up to the research that they've conducted. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, in those situations, you have two choices, right? Exit stage left immediately or fix your face and muddle through, which stinks. But you don't have to do that here because we proudly affirm that no human is illegal. Black Lives Matter. My uterus is my fucking business. And a rapist, pedophile, and con man has no business sitting behind the Resolute desk.
But yeah, right. If Southern Baptists can require you to sign a statement of faith to join their co ops, then we will happily start our episodes with a value statement as well as use it as a bat signal to find our people. So there it is. There you have it. All right. So the topic for the day, we are going to be talking about play-based early education. This is an often misunderstood concept, sometimes super misunderstood. So we're eager to clear up some of the, I guess, just general confusion around the idea. So buckle up. We have tons to cover.
Yeah, I'm excited because this is a big topic in community discussions. And I do often feel like a salmon swimming upstream in those conversations because I get the sense that the mental pictures and the related associations that the term play-based education conjure are not complete or are not accurate. And I love it when we record an episode about those sorts of engagements because then when I'm involved in those conversations, I could be like, we really explained it very thoroughly here. Please take a listen to this thing. So, so I'm thrilled we're going to have this recording soon enough to be able to put out into those conversations.
I just have to say that is so true. Just today in a group, I saw someone who was posting about how they were using the summer to start homeschooling, but their kiddo wasn't out of school yet, but they were already starting to implement some of these things. And I'm like, if I even start trying to have this conversation, my replies are notoriously long. I'm sure I'm the butt of a lot of jokes because my replies are always like 5 paragraphs long when I try to say something. Cause I'm like, anytime I try to keep it short, like I feel like it gets misunderstood or people read things into it that I didn't mean. And so then I try to share plenty of information so they don't take me the wrong way. And then sometimes I overcorrect. I totally understand this. But so I was looking at it, I'm like, I have so much I want to say, but actually, can I gently encourage you to just go listen to this episode? Like, for 56 minutes, we talked about this, and you don't want me to type 56 minutes worth of information in this comment thread. So please go listen, and then I'm happy to talk after.
Yeah. It's so true. I have a couple of episodes where I've just got that link handy and I'm like, we talked about it a ton here. Please, 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 before you start taking advice and doing things and making purchases, please just go listen to this thing. So this is going to be one of those, I think. But yeah. Okay. But first, we begin all of our episodes with a weekly recap. It's part of our imperfect, keeping it real vibe around here. So how's your week been, Amanda? Give us the good, the bad. Hopefully there's not too much ugly involved, but yeah, lay it on us.
Yeah. I mean, look, I am incredibly fortunate that I generally consider the parents of my kiddos' closest friends my closest friends as well.
Mm.
But on top of my fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome and long COVID and I also have POTS-like dysautonomia. It's not exactly POTS because there are a few differences to it. But anyway, it's summer and the sun is out and it's hot. And I'm wearing my compression leggings day in and day out. And my kiddo is enjoying 3 or 4 outdoor play dates every week. And they are just taking so much out of me. I'm like, it's a super first world problem, but there are some things and some seasons that are just really hard and you want to do it for your kiddo. And we talked about this. We have a whole episode on homeschooling with chronic illness. And, but man, like you want to do things for your kid. And then at the same time, it's like, it's so hard and it takes so much out of you. And yeah, it's been a rough little go of things. I did commit to doing Christmas in July. If you've been listening to us for a while, you probably remember me talking about that. So we're doing that thing with the kiddo. So yeah, I've been doing some low key prep for that. We aren't going too big. Like we aren't putting up the tree or anything like that because it's just too much energy right now. But we are going to drink lots of hot chocolate. So we've got the marshmallows that go in the hot chocolate because kiddo prefers dark hot chocolate, and the dark chocolate hot cocoa doesn't come with the marshmallows in it. So you got to buy the separate marshmallows that you put in it. And he prefers the freeze-dried ones that you put in. You can't just buy the bag of mini marshmallows. Like it's a little bit of a thing, but that's okay. We're going to watch cheesy made for TV Christmas and Hanukkah movies and hopefully finally make my grandma's special sugar cookies because I really like them. And I didn't get them at Christmas, which is when we usually make them because I have my grandma's original sugar cookie cutters and they're like all Christmas themed. Hence the reason we have to have Christmas in July so we can watch the shows and eat the cookies. So yeah, basically I'm just glad June is done. I need July to be chill. I'm setting my boundary now. Megan usually likes to come up with crazy new big projects in July. I'm saying it here on the record for the entire internet to hear. No new projects in July or August for that matter. Read my lips. No new, that didn't work. So I probably shouldn't actually use that reference.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you because I haven't been able to get much sewing done and much creating because we've been so focused on book stuff. And my fabric bin is like overflowing because when I went to Spain last month with Liam for his AP statistics exam, I bought some more fabric and of course, and I haven't gotten to sew anything. And so, yeah, I'm with you. Like I'm ready for a nice break to be able to get some sewing done and all that good kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, it'll be good.
All
We'll
right.
take a little break. It's going to be good. So yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
All right. So how's the last week been in your world?
Oh, okay. So some fun things. Let's see. I bought a slow cooker, which I'm pretty pumped about. I'm really pumped about it. Actually, in fact, there's a brisket in my slow cooker right now. Today was quite the adventure at the butcher shop because I lived in the United States my whole life and I still never knew what sort of cut of beef to buy for whatever I was trying to do. I'd have to call my mom and be like, what cut of beef do you buy for this thing? And my mom would be like, a rump roast or a this. I just never learned them. I don't know. We don't eat a lot of red meat, so maybe that's part of it. In Portugal, the terms are entirely different. So we researched before we went to the butcher, and I brought my best Portuguese speaking child with me, who happens to be like 99.999% vegetarian. So she was like, oh, looking at all the different animal parts in there. So the internet definitely did us dirty because the term it gave us for brisket in European Portuguese was not accurate. Then I'm trying to pull up a Google picture of a brisket and it's giving me cooked briskets. I'm like, no, a raw brisket. I need to show the guy what the brisket looks like. So I had those, but I also picked up while we were there something to make pulled pork because I have one kiddo who really likes pulled pork. That is not my jam. I'm not a pork person, but I got that and some barbecue sauce. So I'm really loving slow cooker life. I've had a slow cooker my whole adult life, really, since having kids. But when we moved, we got rid of it because the plugs are different here. And so I picked one up the other day on Facebook Marketplace, and it's much smaller and much less fancy than the one that I had in the US, but I don't care. I made one of my favorite dishes the other day that has chicken with onions and soy sauce and garlic and honey, and it's glazy and delicious. And so I made that, and I've got my brisket going, and it's good. I'm super excited about that. So I'm happy to have a slow cooker again. Yeah, I shared last week that Astrid and I joined a gym. Astrid already went to the gym. Astrid lives at the gym. So I'm joining her and now calling it homeschooling PE. I didn't die. I thought I might die in yoga class. I haven't died yet. Body pump is next on the horizon, and that might be the thing that does me in. So if I'm not here next week, you'll know it was the body pump. That'll do it. Yeah. And then I've just been having a lot of kind of big conversations with my oldest kiddo about kind of what comes next. He is a multi-potentialite, 110%. He was doing university in the United States and thoroughly enjoyed university, but was very clear that the thing that he was studying in university wasn't the thing he wanted to do as a career. He just really liked it. He enjoyed it. He likes to learn, which is great. I mean, isn't that mostly what we're after with homeschooling? He had tons of labs and he was in lab and he loved it, but he was like, I don't want to do this like every day for the rest of my life. That's not what we're after here. So this summer he is taking a Python class, and he was very clear from the start that that was probably not a career choice. He was just interested. And I was like, okay, no problem. And so we're still kind of having this like, what do you want to do? I mean, he's only 18. There's plenty of grownups who don't know what they want to do with their lives. There's no rush for him to leave, to move out. He's not in a hurry to move out. You know, some kids are like chomping at the bit at 18 to get out of the house. He's not one of those kids. I wasn't one of those kids either. So I get that, and I'm okay with that. So yeah, he's teaching online a bit, and he's working on kind of cultivating that skill and growing that a bit. We're looking at a project next year that's a 5-month international STEM project where the tagline for the program is like, learn how to build anything. And so there's a lot of CNC 3D printing, and he does enjoy that kind of stuff. And so we're thinking maybe that, but again, I think it's going to be one of those, like, I don't want to do this thing I just really think the program sounds cool and I want to do it and I want to have the experience, and then I'll see what's next in life, you know? And I'm like, okay. And so it's hard in a society that's like, what is your kid doing next? And what are they going to do? And what are they going to grow up to be? And how are they going to support themselves? And like at 18, you don't necessarily have to have that figured out, but we are having a lot of conversations to kind of tease some of that stuff out and figure those things out. And it's interesting because I have 2 kids who have a very clear, like, this is what I want to do. And of course, they're free to change their plans, but they've been on that plan for a really long time. So we've kind of had that going. And then other kiddo is like, I just enjoy taking it as it comes and moving through life and meeting cool people and experiencing cool things. And I'm like, that's amazing. And there are people who live their whole life like that, and it's okay. But it's an interesting dynamic because that's not necessarily my personality either. So trying to parent in that way and trying to kind of coach, and yeah, anyway, you get the idea. It's different. So we've been having a lot of those conversations, and those conversations, when you're having those big conversations like that, they can be pretty tiring because you're noodling and strategizing and trying to figure out how to approach something with somebody and all that kind of stuff. So we've been up to a bunch of that, but yeah, other than that, status quo. So yeah. All right. So early childhood education, topic for the day. Let's do this. So take a moment. You can even pause for a moment. Just don't get all ADHD like me and forget to come back. But you can pause for a moment if you want and kind of form a mental picture of what comes to mind when you hear the phrase play-based education. In many of the conversations that we end up engaged in, we find that people's minds go to chaos, a complete lack of structure, no academics whatsoever, kids absolutely running wild with frazzled parents running behind them who are exhausted and constantly trying to clean up the chaos that's being caused, an absolute free-for-all with toys scattered everywhere and half-finished projects, and kids constantly moving from one activity to the next in a really haphazard, helter-skelter, stressful sort of way. Building blocks all over the floor, dress-up clothes everywhere, endless fort building, stuffed animals having tea parties, which that's great. I love a good stuffed animal tea party. You know, kids just kind of running around chaotically outside, climbing on furniture, pretending sticks are swords, digging in dirt, making giant messes. You know, I mean, being 4 and 5, but yeah, that's what tends to come to mind when people have these mental pictures form. I don't know if you noticed how many times I referred to how messy all of that is. You can probably tell what I find triggering, but mental pictures like that, I think, are a huge part of the reason why so many people push back on play-based education for their littles.
I do not know how you ever had 3 kids under 4 with your disdain for disorder and messes.
Minimalist living helps. You can't make a giant mess if you don't have a lot of stuff.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to first say, if that's what it means to you, all of the things that Megan just listed out, if that's what play-based learning means to you and you're happy with that, awesome. I have said this before on this show. I very intentionally did not send my kiddo to preschool or TK or pre-K, if that's what you have where you live. We did often attend a weekly 1-hour class at a local museum that was specifically for preschool aged kids. But beyond that, our life was playgrounds and toys everywhere and forts that took up all of the floor space in the living room for days upon days, to the point where I'd be like, after 2 weeks, like, okay, this needs to come down. You can work on building something else tomorrow, but just for tonight, I need to be able to do something on the living room floor. And I loved it for my kiddo. I loved it for us. Play-based education for littles can look exactly like that. They can absolutely, quote unquote, catch up to their peers academically when you decide to transition away from that. But play-based education for preschool and kindergarten doesn't necessarily mean the formative years of your children's lives are playing out with no plan, no goals, no intention, no educational purpose beyond what kids organically pick up while playing outside or building with Legos or creating a giant cardboard spaceship / pirate ship.
Oh, I mean, you remember like when I was a kid, we got a new refrigerator, the box that sucker came in. I mean, it was the greatest thing ever. I remember my dad finally was like, you have to get rid of this box. And I was like, why? I mean, why? How is this box harming you? I just freaking loved it. It was great. Yeah.
I mean, at one point we had one, it was boxes and it was taller than me. So it had to be close to 6 feet tall. And it was probably between 10 and 12 feet long, and all different sizes and shapes of boxes taped together and cut with holes and doors and peaks and spires and some roofs and some not, and sheets. It was a whole thing. And again, if that's not your style and you don't want your kid to spend a week creating it and then swear for 2 weeks that it can't go anywhere because you live in a 2-bedroom condo without space for it to be anywhere except blocking the TV, and that doesn't work for you, like, that's okay. You are allowed to parent that way. And if you're fine with it, rock on.
Yeah. And it's not harmful. We're not saying like, well, if you choose to do that, like more power to you, good luck. No, you can totally do that and it'll be amazing. Yeah. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's kind of the direction we're going in today. So either way works. Now, here's the deal. If you have listened to us for any period of time, you will know that we are all about data and science. If you're new here, we're all about data and science. Okay. We never just show up and go, this is the way we do it, so this is the way you should do it. That's not our jam. But we only have about an hour and we have a lot to cover today. So we're going to start out by saying this. We have a book and we have an online course that's videos and a workbook that go heavily, both of them, heavily into the studies behind what we are going to discuss today. Both of them provide you with templates for creating intentional play-based learning plans. They provide you with nearly endless ways to implement what we are going to discuss today at a much higher level. This is very much the Cliff's Notes version of the book and or the online class. They both say basically the same kind of sort of things. It's just the delivery medium, whichever one works better for you. Rock on. Have the best time ever. So if you are homeschooling a kiddo age 6 or under, or you're planning to do so, this episode is a great starting point, but it is like dipping your toe in the water. if you listen to this and you're like, okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down here, but you want to make sure that you're setting your kiddo up for incredible success beyond kindergarten, you will definitely want to go deeper than this episode. Go with the book, go with the online course, depending on how you learn best. Either way, but those exist. So today, if it feels like we drop something and kind of gloss over it and you're like, I need more, it exists, just not in this 1 hour.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to be the because we said so people, or the this is how we did it, so it's the right way people. We don't expect you to just take our word for it. We have tons of source-cited information in both the course and the book about the negative implications associated with pushing academics in a way that aren't age or developmentally appropriate. And it is so important in this conversation. So if you're worried about striking a balance between doing too much and doing too little, those resources, they are there. They can absolutely help you figure out that balance. So we are going to skip the case for play-based education that is so detailed, again, in our other resources. And right now, we're just going to say, first, we absolutely support public education in the US and everywhere. And we have incredible respect for teachers. At the same time, second, number two is also true. The system has a lot of issues. And both data and anecdotal evidence tells us there is a great need for systemic change, especially these days, especially in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. So for most of us, school and learning had a very specific look, and it pretty much always involved desks, worksheets, textbooks, tests, a teacher standing at the front of the room providing top-down instruction, and seat work. So our brains tend to think school equals learning, and anything that doesn't look like that list I just rattled off is fluff.
Well, yeah, and add in that your friends, neighbors, siblings with similar aged kiddos are all ordering monogrammed backpacks from Pottery Barn and taking Pinterest style first day of school pics. I take those. It's okay. Then come the social media posts throughout the year about their kid being student of the month, my nephew, a star reader, a lot of my friends' kids. So when you're envisioning digging in the dirt and making pillow forts, it is natural that you're thinking, yeah, there's no way I can do just that. My kid will be totally behind in life. Like, that's a terrible way to start out. That's a terrible foundation.
And so, again, in the data that we've shared in our other sources, number one, that's not a terrible way to start out, and your child will not be behind. And we have tons of data to prove that to you in those sources. But number two, if you really cannot live that way and you're like, no, we need a plan, we need to be doing something, that's totally cool. You can still dig in the dirt and build pillow forts, but you can also incorporate more. And this is where people's mental pictures don't often align with the reality of what the concept actually is. So they discount it without fully understanding it or fully exploring the option. And play-based education is an option that we know from endless studies, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of studies, is what is, in fact, age and developmentally appropriate for your 4-year-old, your 5-year-old, and younger, obviously. We even cited sources in our other resources with teachers who teach kindergarten who were like, please listen to us. What we're doing is not correct. But they don't get to make that decision in the traditional school system. And they're being forced to educate kids in a way that they know and they're seeing every single day is not what we should be doing. So, spoiler alert, student of the month is not one of the things that is age or developmentally appropriate, typically speaking. And as Amanda mentioned earlier, we discuss in our other resources, not only is it not age or developmentally appropriate, but there are actually long-term negative implications that we have from studies that statistically we know arise when we place those sorts of expectations on a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, etc.
Okay, so if it isn't necessarily chaos and a full day of playing in the dirt, You're probably wondering what exactly we're proposing with this play-based education. And it really boils down to intentional, structured play. Both can be super formative for your young learners. Your role in play-based learning can and often does go far beyond simply enduring the chaos and cleaning up the messes. Intentional play-based education means the adults are observing, noticing interest, developmental readiness, emerging literacy, and numeracy skills. They're introducing materials. They're providing the books the kids are looking at. They're providing manipulatives, creative tools. It's Play-Doh, and it's those scissors that you use to cut up the Play-Doh, and measuring tools. I mean, how many times did you use your measuring cups in the water table in the summer or with the rice or whatever? It's counting objects. It's dramatic play props and boxes of dress-up clothes.
Yeah, exactly. You're creating opportunities. It's not just letting the day unfold in whatever chaotic manner appeals to your children. You're setting up invitations to come and explore letters and numbers with you and identify patterns and sorting things and exploring storytelling and problem solving. You're facilitating and participating alongside your kids to model enhanced vocabulary and mathematical thinking and curiosity. It's far more proactive than people think when they think play-based education.
Yeah. I mean, it's asking questions, encouraging prediction and comparison and counting and sequencing and storytelling and critical thinking. It's extending the learning. So you're taking whatever your kiddo is interested in and deepening it with literacy, a trip to the library to pick out books that they'll enjoy, numeracy, science, and real world connections, those fun field trips or the science experiment kit that blows things up in the kitchen that you all have fun with, unless you're Megan. And then you're like, please don't make a mess in my kitchen.
It's messy, right?
I'm like, do we want to blow up something that's pink? Do we want to blow up something that's blue? Do we want to use the volcano? Which do we want to blow up?
Yeah. And I'm there. I have a dedicated cleaning toothbrush that I can dip. Yeah, that I can dip into bleach and then put some baking soda on so that I can really get like a good abrasive scrub going when I need to clean something up. And I have teenagers now, so they're not making these huge messes anymore. But yeah, I just replaced my cleaning toothbrush not that long ago because I used it for something where it was like the point of no return. And so I have a new cleaning toothbrush as of like this week. It's pretty fresh and exciting in my world. So yeah, it's a thing. But yeah, so anyway, free play is still important. We still need free play. We're periods where kids are choosing the activity, the duration, the direction, the outcome. All of that is super important to their development. It might look like imaginative play with dolls, climbing, fort building, inventing worlds and games, time with imaginary friends. All of that is super duper important.
Yeah, all of that holds value. And again, if that's what you want your play-based education for your 6 and under kiddo to look like, that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like you need more because that is not enough for you to be comfortable, stick around, okay? We are not saying that everything should be structured and intentional. In fact, we did a whole episode on the importance of boredom and kids having unstructured time. But if completely unstructured free play feels too uncomfortable when everyone else is dropping off their kids at preschool or kindergarten, or your pediatrician is pressuring you, or your family is pressuring you, or wherever it's coming from, balancing that unstructured playtime with intentional play and with structured play might be the balance you're looking for. So during periods of intentional play, the adult is inviting the child to play. They're providing materials or scope, and they challenge the child to push boundaries and comfort levels. This might look like a nature scavenger hunt, looking for different types of bugs and rocks, leaves, etc. It might include dramatic play prompts to bolster social emotional skills. It could be sensory bins or hands-on STEM oriented projects that not only encourage, but truly allow children to ask questions and make predictions and test their ideas. And sometimes this is more about the parents than the kids. Sometimes when we have these, we direct a little too much. And at this stage, it's the time to really work on giving your kids the floor to do these things and to direct it a little bit more themselves. As they get older, yes, you might need to direct the science experiments a little bit more to make sure that they're getting out of it what they need to get out of it. At this age, at this stage, it's the chance for them to just have at it, really put that scientific method into practice, even when they don't realize that's what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Amanda just ran through that whole list of options. And if you're sitting there thinking, did they just tell me to build out a situation where I engage my child in dramatic play to teach them social emotional skills and then move on with absolutely no detail on how the hell I'm supposed to do that? Like, what the fuck? Again, we have the details. Book, online class. We've got you covered with oodles of details to be able to do this. Okay. Another thing you can do to add intentionality to your kiddos' early childhood years, and this was a big one for us when my kids were younger, is exploring themes. It allows you to go deeper into topics and you can see them light up and see what sparks their curiosity and where they want to go deeper. And you can introduce foundational knowledge. Yes, we're still promoting literacy, numeracy, all of those things through those activities.
And again, I'm going to stress, I did none of this. We had no themes. I did not create unit studies. The most I invited my kiddo into intentional play was buying him a harder puzzle or a new book about whatever his current interest was, or maybe doing some fun science experiments because I love a box kit of blow this stuff up or turn these colors wonky or create these crystals on a pipe cleaner.
Yeah.
But then I sent him to Montessori school for kindergarten as an easy transition from nearly constant free play and mess and chaos to something that looked a little bit more like school, but was still super hands-on and play-based. Look, my kiddo is more than fine. He's awesome and absolutely thriving as a middle schooler. But if you want more structure, more intention, an example might be if your 4-year-old is obsessed with dinosaurs, a dinosaur themed month can become the vehicle for all kinds of learning without ever feeling like school. You might read him every dinosaur picture book they have at the library. That's literacy. You can count toy dinosaurs and sort them by size or type or color. You're working on math. You're working on life skills. You can measure dinosaur footprints with a ruler or a tape measure. It's early measurement skills. And then you can extrapolate that out to how big do you think they were based on their foot size? Do you think this one is bigger or that one is bigger? Then you can read about it and look back at your books, and you're working on your critical thinking skills and comprehension. You can dig fossils out of a sensory bin. You can compare the size of different dinosaurs using string or sidewalk chalk. Spatial reasoning, it's super important in the early learning phases. Create a pretend dinosaur museum where your child makes tickets and labels exhibits and gives tours. I mean, you're covering literacy and communication and dramatic play. To an outside observer, all of that might look like a kid playing dinosaurs all day, every day. Why is your kid so obsessed with dinosaurs? But underneath that play, they're building vocabulary, they're practicing counting and measuring, they're strengthening fine motor skills, developing scientific curiosity and reasoning, and learning to communicate ideas. The theme provides the structure, while play provides the engagement. The result is a child who is learning because they're fascinated. That's what we want, not because they were asked to complete a worksheet or the newest Kumon workbook that you picked up, which I'll be honest, I had a Kumon workbook. I'm 100% certain we did, but not the same level of enjoyment and excitement.
Well, yeah. And all the stuff that Amanda just rattled off, all of those skills, they're learning them in a way that is age and developmentally appropriate, that we know through data, through science, through best practices from global international studies conducted over 50 years all over the world. So that's it. That's the golden ticket right there. Unless, like you said, you want to go strictly free play-based, which is totally fine as well. I do find it entertaining that you started that way and then went full academic homeschooler, and I started the other way and then went unschooling. We've both lived these kind of sliding doors moments in our existence. So yeah, you can go deep and wide with themes, which is really cool. You can explore different countries, holidays, seasons. Oh, I thought earlier when you do your Hanukkah stuff, by the way, I have a video tutorial on how to make latkes. If you decide you want to make latkes, I'll send it to you. It's an online class that I teach, but I can send you the latke module. Thought of it earlier, circling back. Okay. So yeah, holidays, seasons. I mean, you name it. You can build play and learning around whatever topic your kiddo is interested in or you want to explore. We continued with themes into what traditional education peeps would call elementary school. We don't really function on that sort of a system, but my kids loved that style of learning, and I enjoy building those things out. It's basically a unit study, but built around play instead of graphing activities and reading lists like the ones that we build for Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. And Amanda's like, you need an answer key. And I'm like, oh, for crying out loud with the answer keys, but I get it. So I make the answer key. But yeah, that's basically what it is. It's just not on paper for the kid to sit down and read through a PDF file. There's a trope in the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Are you a My Big Fat Greek Wedding fan, Amanda? Have you seen it? Do you know it by heart?
I don't know it by heart. I have seen it. I enjoyed it.
Well, the dad is obsessed with being Greek. It's his whole existence and personality. And he always does this thing where he's like, give me a word, any word, and I'll show you that the root of that word is Greek. And it's basically like a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing. And I feel that way about unit studies. Give me a topic, any topic. I will show you how it would become a unit study for older kiddos, or in this case, a play-based adventure of learning that your kiddo doesn't really realize is a unit study, but it's kind of sort of a unit study that's just in a different format.
Well, yeah. And the thing is you do that. It's an option in our coaching portfolio where Megan can literally help you get started in figuring out how to take your child's love of Transformers or My Little Pony or whatever and turn it into an intentional learning map. She loves building units. I don't, if you haven't picked up on that before. She was like, we should do a monthly unit study for our Patreon subscribers. And I was like, that sounds awful. How are we going to do that? And she was like, I've got it. I'll send you 1,000,000 links and you can watch all of them and tell me what to include and what's crap. And oh, that sounds fantastic. And then I'll put it together and then you can proofread it because you'll love that. Oh, that sounds great. I love organizing your chaos. Let's do it.
I knew you would like it. And I will say, as much as you love to say that, your kiddo freaking loves our unit studies.
He does. I mean, he gets really pissy when I start watching the videos, like the right? Because you send me like a big ideas dump and I start watching it and being like, I like this one. This one needs to go first. This one works, but you should also include this. And he gets really pissy if I even start that process without him. He really enjoys being a part of that process as well. And then he still does it after it's done. I don't.
When it's completed. Yeah.
Yeah. He still, once it goes out to everyone else, he sits down with the printouts and like, yeah. So,
Yep. See? So he loves it. Yep. It's good. I like it. All right. So let's talk about types of play. Yes, there are different types of play, subcategories of play. In our other resources, we share 11 different types of play and examples of what that might look like. But again, we're not aiming for a 3 to 5 hour episode here. So we will condense it down to the fact that, yes, there are different categories of play. And an intentional play-based education will likely straddle all of them and rotate through them to provide your kiddo opportunities to develop each of those skills through play in a well-rounded approach.
Well, yeah. And to prepare them for what's coming next when they do transition into more formal academics, whatever that looks like in your home. So we'll share one play style here with examples to give you an idea of what that might look like. And again, we have all of them with even more examples and things in our other resources. This is just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. So let's make it make-believe play. This is likely familiar to you, and you might even be having flashbacks to the days when your Cabbage Patch Kids were having full conversations with one another about what they wanted to be when they grew up, or planning their dream family vacation to Disney. So for your purposes, make-believe play might be setting up a veterinary office for your animal lover, or turning your play kitchen into a restaurant that takes orders and gets slammed every Tuesday when it's meatloaf day. Through scenarios like this, kids are developing skills in language, sequencing, problem solving, social and social emotional skills, and perspective taking. Kids are essentially running simulations. They're practicing how the world works in a way their still developing brains can understand, which is creating a foundation that makes later reading, writing, and academic learning far, far more meaningful.
Again, coming from the academic aggressive homeschooler, not me. Amanda said it, not me. I always feel like it gives it extra validity when we point that out. Yeah. They're like, of course the hippie one said that. What does the other one say? Oh no, she says it too. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So when you're intentionally building all 11 of those play styles into your themes, your weekly plans, however you decide to approach it, your kiddos are building all of the skills in a way that is beneficial to them in their future years, ways that they can call on. They're building that foundation, but again, in a way that is developmentally and age appropriate.
No, absolutely. And also, they're doing it without the negative consequences of anxiety and burnout that we know from studies, again, from actual peer-reviewed studies and data. It comes with pushing formal academics too early. And listen, we know that this sounds very different than what 4 and 5-year-olds in more traditional environments are doing. But also, we know that that's not working all that well for most kids experiencing it. I mean, just in last week's episode, we were mentioning America's literacy crisis. Well, most Americans went through a traditional school setting, and we still have a massive literacy crisis, and it's getting worse. In the long run, we know that kids who are starting formal academics at age 4 and 5, in some cases even earlier, they don't have stellar test scores down the road to show for it. They don't often have a deep-seated love of learning and reading. They grow into tweens and teenagers and adults who aren't excited about the opportunity to be a lifelong learner. And that's just not what we're trying for here.
Yeah. Well, and like I said before, how ironic that you started out with not having any sort of structure and all of that. That wasn't by accident. That's because you're a data, like a data,
a data,
right. You're a data junkie who was like, it was an intentional choice. It wasn't like you didn't feel the need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you didn't feel the need to do it. And then all of a sudden you were like, oh crap, I better start teaching this kid something. And then you became an academic aggressive homeschooler.
Yeah.
It was a choice based on data that happened. And you're kind of like a one person case study of all the studies that we have included in our resources, because your kiddo has superseded his peers. He's an incredibly engaged and curious learner, right? Like all these things. And he didn't start early, and he doesn't have the burnout, and he doesn't have the anxiety, and it's like you are the case study. So yeah, absolutely. These things exist. So yeah, the studies that we've built our resources on look at successful models in other countries. And like, I hate to say it, but no one is studying the United States education system from abroad and thinking, yeah, they've got it figured out. We should adopt what they're doing. But no one is doing that. So
it is working out so well. And on top of it all, it's incredibly affordable. We should do that thing.
I mean, if anything, my brain goes to in South Africa when the government was trying to implement apartheid measures, and they went to countries like India and the United States. They came to the United States to study racism. They were like, they're doing that great. Let's go figure out how we can implement their racism, but with our twist on it. No one is studying our education model and being like, we should do that thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the early 20th century, when they were like, how do we best implement eugenics? You know, the United States is doing some really groundbreaking research on that. Let's go check that out. Like,
yeah, exactly. But our education model, not happening. We have 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds sitting at desks before they're ready. We have them writing with pencils before their little hands are physiologically ready to do so. We're asking them to focus before their brains are capable of it. We spend so much time working ourselves into a tizzy because the handwriting isn't neat and legible, or because the lessons are stressful because they won't sit still. But the kiddo is right. Their biology and their physiology is driving those outcomes. And they're expressing to you with those behaviors that they're not ready for those things. And oftentimes what's driving our tizzied state is a fear that we will fail them, and a fear that they'll fall behind, a fear that other people will judge us if our 5-year-old isn't reading chapter books and taking AR tests. But those are societal imposed milestones. They're very arbitrary. Versus when your kiddo can't sit still or can't hold a pencil, quote unquote, properly, that's not an arbitrary societal timeline. That's your kiddo's innate development and biology pushing back against milestones, because everything in them is going, this doesn't feel right. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And they're right. They're supposed to be playing.
well, yeah, if it's hard to imagine, like, oh, well, kids can learn to hold a pencil at any time. They can't. It's the same as like your kid can't ride the roller coaster at the amusement park because they're not tall enough. And they're not tall enough because their biology hasn't made them tall enough. You know, their biology hasn't developed their hands enough to be able to hold that properly. It's not just, well, I need to teach them. This is not a teachable skill. You can't teach their bones to grow faster.
No, but I'm going to buy a new pencil grip, Amanda, and it's going to be fine. The pencil grip is going to solve all of this.
It'll negate
a slant board.
Yeah, the bones and the ligaments. It'll be fine. The cartilage, don't worry. Okay. It's kind of like when you have a gut reaction to something and you just know it isn't right. Your kiddo's inability to focus, it really is their body's way of communicating, hey, this is not what I'm developmentally ready for. Now, all right, as two people who are raising 2E kids, meaning they both have a learning difference or a neurodivergence diagnosis like ADHD or autism, et cetera, and they are also diagnosed gifted, officially diagnosed as gifted, so they're 2E. We are bracing ourselves for the gifted pushback. We are both in enough gifted groups and homeschooling gifted groups. We've seen it, right? It usually goes something like, I get what you're saying for the average 4-year-old, but my child is gifted and they need the challenge or they'll be bored. And yes, we get that. Homeschooling truly gifted kids is different. There's no getting around it. And we mean truly gifted kids, not high achieving kids. We're trying to make it clear, because a truly gifted kiddo has very different neurological wiring. Mm-hmm. Giftedness is a difference in brain wiring. It's a difference in how your brain actually works and functions. There's nothing against high achieving kids. They're just not neurodiverse. They're typically neurotypical. That's one of those differences between a high achieving kiddo and a kiddo with something else going on. The strategies and trajectory for gifted kids will vary, and it does require a lot of differentiation. We 100% agree. But, okay, but the most important thing to remember is that a gifted 4-year-old is still a 4-year-old. They might have an advanced vocabulary. They might be hyperlexic. They might have incredible spatial reasoning. They might be curious on a level that is positively exhausting, honestly. But they are still 4. They are still a 4-year-old in a 4-year-old body. They are emotionally and physically and neurologically still a 4-year-old. And that's okay. That's how they were made. And it is so important that you still allow them to develop as a 4-year-old with play and play-based learning and all of this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, and most 3 and 4-year-olds haven't been tested for giftedness. I mean, you'd have to have a shit ton of stuff going on for a kid to have had a full neuropsych eval at that age. And so most of the time, you're not even really sure at that age that your kiddo is gifted. But yeah, gifted kids can, and typically, even at 4 years old, should still learn through hands-on, organic, play-based, interest-led experiences. Where they differ, if you do know that you have a truly diagnosed gifted child, is that you'll likely need to build in more depth, more complexity, more exploration, and creativity. Honestly, this is where even traditional schooling gets giftedness wrong most of the time, where they just pile on more work onto gifted kids instead of changing the thought process and the type of work that gifted kids are doing. So even in that system, very, very broken. But anyhow, having a gifted kid does not mean skipping childhood. Plop them in a seat, put a pencil in their tiny little hand, print out worksheets at warp speed because they need this. They have to have this. Gifted kids, in my estimation, it's interesting because they require an obscene amount of work to keep challenged and to keep the differentiation going and all that kind of stuff. But on the flip side, it's really interesting because they also need almost no motivation to learn because in a lot of cases, they're super duper curious and they are like Johnny Five from Short Circuit in the 80s movie. It's like more input, need more input. So if you have a gifted kid or you sense you have a gifted kid, you're not going to have to push them that hard at 4. If you just keep providing resources and opportunities and ways for them to go deep, they're going to go. They're going to do it. They're going to love it.
Well, and that is the thing that makes homeschooling so great for a gifted kiddo, because I saw it for the time that we were doing virtual school and my kiddo is sitting in math class and they're doing math that he already fully understands. And so he's doodling and making funny comics and quickly becoming the class clown, but then also at the same time not remembering to finish the worksheet. So the teacher's like, well, he doesn't know how to do it. And it's like, oh, he does. He just looked at it, knew all the answers, decided he'd do it later, got caught up having fun. Of course, we're still going to have fun homeschooling, but he's not wasting time waiting to get to something he cares about. He gets to do all kinds of things that he cares about. He gets to direct his learning in so many different ways. And that has been the case in our home for a really long time. Now, I only have one kiddo. I did not realize how gifted he was when he was little. So yeah, I had this incredibly free play based childhood for him before school age. And he did a lot of it on his own. He was super content to build giant wooden train track cities and then use Duplos and Legos to create the buildings and stores and sidewalks and bridges. And all of this stuff was in his head and he was happy to just create it. That's a type of differentiation. Some kids are not going to want to do that. Some kids are going to be far more interested in just digging in the dirt, and that's okay. All of it is okay. It doesn't, you don't have to have a gifted kid for this to work. You don't have to have a neurotypical kid for this to work. Playing and meeting your kid where they're at is what we're talking about. and it
Yeah.
works for
Yeah.
every kid.
Yeah. And whether your kiddo is gifted or not, the assumption that a workbook equals real learning and digging in the dirt doesn't, it's just truly not true. Go to the deschooling episode next because there's some deprogramming to happen there. If you have a kiddo who's obsessed with insects, they will learn, I promise you, they will learn more in 6 months of bug investigations where they've got magnifying glasses and a field journal and books and documentaries and all this kind of stuff. They're going to learn more doing that than doing a workbook on bugs. I promise you, especially at this age. It's going to stick better because it's hands-on and it implants differently. The studies tell us that. So we know that this is how learning really sticks, especially for younger kids. And the need for hands-on does not go away like Cinderella's pumpkin at midnight. Just because they go to first grade, it's like, oh, now it's books. Okay. Obviously, more people are starting to introduce workbooks and stuff like that in first grade. But the need for hands-on and the need for this exploration is still huge all throughout the elementary years. It's just going to kind of a sliding scale situation where they'll get a little bit more of this and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, okay, the next objection that we're bracing for, and as our resident academic aggressive homeschooler, I'm keen to hear your thoughts on Amanda because I have some thoughts and I haven't read your thoughts yet. I know you made some notes, but I haven't looked at them. So I'll be super interested to hear them. I will save my thoughts for after. But how about this one when it's like, but my child wants to do the workbooks. They are asking for the workbooks.
I mean, look, I don't have an issue with workbooks. I have a kiddo who used to really enjoy a good workbook, less so now as a middle schooler. But before my kiddo started formal academics, we absolutely had mini white clean workbook type things and sticker books and coloring and activity books. And I always had a selection on my person. So when we were stuck somewhere or we went out to a restaurant or whatever, you'd pull them out and be like, which one do you want? What most catches your eye? And we use them to keep him occupied and chill in all sorts of situations. Fundamentally, I do not have a problem with a workbook. If you're a grown-up who regularly handwrites things or you use a journal, your kiddo is probably going to want a book of their own to mimic you. Sure, why not? Create that culture in your home. For me, it's no different than making sure you read real books or paper things in front of your kids so that they grow up with this culture of reading as just normal. You want to make sure that they know their parents read and they read for pleasure and they read to get information and they just read a lot. So then the kids are more likely to be open to just reading a lot. I feel the same way about writing and workbooks and that kind of stuff. If your young kiddo sees a colorful workbook next to the picture books at the dollar store or TJ Maxx and they want it and it's at least fairly age appropriate, I say, sure, why not get it for him? A book is a book. I will say most of the time when people say their kid wants the workbook, it was after the grown-up introduced the workbook and reinforced the idea that doing workbooks meant more praise and more attention and more time with that grown-up. And that is a less than ideal situation, given everything we know about early education. So if you have a kid who is naturally inclined or they see one and they want to scribble in it, I don't have issues with that. For me, it's exposure, just like so many other things. But I would be really careful about getting a workbook and bringing it home or taking them to the workbook section and being like, do any of these look fun? At such
Hint,
a young
hint.
age. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is good. Okay. So I typed up my notes and I had left a section in our little document of outline here for our episode. And I was like, Amanda, whatever you think, do that thing from an academic aggressive homeschooler perspective. But I had already put my notes and I was like, I might be so freaking far off base from what Amanda says, but look at us aligning like we do. Okay. So I have a couple of things. My first is, this is why deschooling is beneficial for both parents and kiddos, even if the kiddo has never been to school. School is in everything. It's in books, it's in cartoons, it's in cultural references that they've been exposed to their entire life. They hear family members talking about cousins who are in school and things that they've accomplished. And kids are not stupid. They can hear that tone and that, like esteem that the person is talking about that goes along with what this big cousin is doing in school. So they've developed an expectation, whether we realize it or not, that workbooks are big kid stuff. And what young kiddo doesn't want to be in on the big kid stuff? Oh my gosh, my older cousins are doing these things. I would like to do these things too. I do this now as well. And B, that grown-ups in society, they get the gist that they really seem to value this thing, this school and the books and they seem to really do this because it's always held up as something to be proud of. And I want to be a part of that thing too. So number 2, my other thought is, whether you realize it or not, and this is going to echo what Amanda said, your reaction is likely different when your kiddo creates a Lego spaceship versus when they complete something that resembles traditional academics. It's societal programming. So one tends to hold more value than the other. And even if it's a very subtle difference, your kiddo freaking knows it. So does your kiddo want the workbook, or do they want the connection? I swear I use the exact same freaking words in my notes, right? The connection that comes from sitting with you while they do it, the praise that they get after they've done it, the feeling of being a big kid and belonging to something bigger than their small world. The reality is their little hands are not ready to hold a pencil. So if they're asking for things that I know they are not developmentally ready for, I'm going to redirect them. In the same way that if a 2-year-old wants a big kid pogo stick, I'm going to be like, that's not physically appropriate for the size and development of your body right now. This equals no front teeth and a trip to the emergency room. This is exactly where we're headed with this pogo stick. And so for me, the same applies to workbooks for littles, for me. Again, like Amanda said, if they want to scribble in it or something like that, okay, it wouldn't be my choice. They probably wouldn't have come into it exposure in my world. We wouldn't be in that aisle, to your point, and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, so for me, instead of buying the ABC tracing book at the store, I would propose pre-writing activities with sand and shaving cream and things like that. I'm not going to deny my kid access to the ABCs. So I'm not trying to keep my kids ignorant. If they are curious and want to learn, absolutely. But I'm going to do it in a way that is appropriate for their hands at the stage that they're at, and then also prepares their little hands for the workbook when and if, because you can unschool and not use workbooks if you don't want to, if the time comes. So we kind of lined up pretty well there on that. I'm just saying.
We did. If your kiddo really wants a workbook and ends up mostly scribbling in it with a fat marker, that's okay. Exposure for me is rarely a bad thing, but let's be really aware of what we're reinforcing, to some of your points. And I touched on it a little.
Mhm.
What are we reinforcing? I am less interested in a kid who can do worksheets at 4. I am much more interested in a 14-year-old who asks questions, solves problems, takes initiative, thinks creatively, and just actually genuinely wants to learn.
Well, yeah. And there's people listening who will be like, okay, well, I'll give my 4-year-old the worksheet and it'll turn them into a 14-year-old that does those things. But statistically, we know that that's not
Research doesn't
always
really
the case.
support that.
Yeah, it doesn't really say that that's the outcome that you're going to get. In a lot of cases, the data actually shows the opposite. So yeah. But I mean, that's a beautiful success indicator, is having a 14-year-old who's interested. I mean, I started the episode by saying my 18-year-old is kind of like, I'm interested in this and I'm interested in that. And I don't really know what I'm like, okay, but he has tons of interest and he loves freaking learning. He loves learning. So yeah, but listen, we get it. Early academics often feels powerful. It feels visible. You can put it in a planner. For the record, you can outline your play-based education in a planner too, if you really want to. You can post it on Facebook and other people will recognize it for what it is. You get kudos from grandparents, but the reality is development isn't a race and most children eventually arrive at the same destination. The question is, what did the journey cost for you and your kiddo? What kind of shape are you all in when you get to the destination? If you look like the car at the end of the Tommy Boy movie, was it a win? Probably not. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie, but the car does not look good.
Spoiler alert, it was not a win. So, high level, big picture, we'd love for you to take a few things away from this episode. Number one, play is not the opposite of learning. And yes, we know in the US education system, which, whether we like it or not, trickles over and influences homeschooling, the US system has continually doubled down on pushing kids into academics harder and earlier. Play is the language childhood uses to make sense of the world. Children have so little time to just play, but they'll have truly, literally decades upon decades to learn. Don't take away any of those years that they have for play. And number two, if you want the full breakdown of all 11 types of play, along with practical examples, as well as more about themed learning months, that's totally Megan, and developmental milestones and studies on what we know is best for young kids and what intentional play-based education actually looks like day to day, then by all means roll right from this episode into either our video course and the workbook or our paperback book, The Only Book You Need to Homeschool, or whatever the hell the title is. They both contain the same type of information. So rock whichever one works best for you with your learning style and the time you have. Some people can do an online class. Some people can at least thumb through a book, whatever. Head to homeschoolmomsunfiltered.com for details on all of that, or you can comment where you're listening and we'll help. You can find us on social media, send us a DM. However you go about it, we have got you covered.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we typically end our episodes with a mantra. It's a bite-sized encapsulation that you can take with you relating to the topic of the day so that when you're having a moment, you can remind yourself of the big picture with that small mantra. And we've done hundreds of episodes at this point, and we always write them ourselves. But today we are turning our mantra over to the one and only Mr. Rogers. Did you grow up in the neighborhood, Amanda? I grew up in the neighborhood.
I did.
Yeah.
And my kiddo has too. It is still available and it's got lots of great stuff. If you haven't watched any of the old episodes with your kiddo, fantastic, especially when you're talking about play-based learning.
Time to feed the fish. Yeah. So anyway, in 1995, Fred Rogers wrote a book called You Are Special, Words of Wisdom for All Ages from a Beloved Neighbor. In it, he shared our parting words that will be our mantra for the day. Play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning. But for children, play is serious learning. At various times, play is a way to cope with life and to prepare for adulthood. Playing is a way to solve problems and to express feelings. In fact, play is the real work of childhood. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Love him. Yeah, so good. Okay, excellent. So we hope you've taken something away from today. If you're like, oh crap, I have to change my entire plan for preschool and kindergarten now, it's okay. There's literally no rush to start preschool and kindergarten. It's okay. It's probably not even a legal requirement in the state that you live in, which should tell you a lot about what we all know is developmentally appropriate for those kids. If they needed that thing, it would be a legal requirement. Anyway, we have the tools. Check out the website. Let us know what questions you have. And in the meantime, happy homeschooling, friends.
Yeah, have a great one.